Every generation has its story about selling your soul. In 1974, Brian De Palma told his through glam rock excess, horror camp, and a deal with the devil dressed as a record producer. Phantom of the Paradise isn't just a strange rock opera. It's a vision of the music industry as a machine that chews up artists and keeps feeding long after they're gone. To understand why this film feels so sharp, you have to remember where music was in the early 1970s. The Beatles had just broken up. The counterculture high of the 1960s was already turning into the corporate machinery of the new decade. Record labels were consolidating into massive empires. Arena rock was born. Glam was exploding, with Bowie, Alice Cooper, and T-Rex turning music into theater. And at the same time, contracts and publishing deals were quietly stripping artists of ownership, making the industry rich, while leaving creators behind. De Palma dropped Phantom right into the middle of all that. A horror satire, yes, but also a prophecy of sorts. Phantom of the Paradise is usually described as a mashup of Phantom of the Opera, Faust, and The Picture of Dorian Gray. On the surface, it's a glam rock horror comedy about a disfigured composer haunting a concert hall. But beneath the glitter, it's really about the machinery of the music industry and what it does to the people inside it. At the center is a character named Winslow Leach, the pure artist. His music is personal, authentic, and for that very reason, he's damned. Then you have Swan, the producer who steals his work. He's not just a villain, he's the industry itself. He's manipulative, he's predatory, and he's endlessly hungry. Then you have Phoenix, the singer that Winslow believes in. That is the dream of uncorrupted talent before the machine swallows her up as well. De Palma was still early in his career here. He'd made Sisters, a Hitchcock-inspired thriller, and was already obsessed with split screens, voyeurism, and satire. Phantom gave him the chance to merge all those instincts into one movie. The result is messy, campy, but deliberately so. A carnival mirror held up to the music business. The betrayals that happen in Phantom aren't just plot points, though. They're staged as grotesque exaggerations of real industry practices. When Swan first steals Winslow's music, it's played with comedy timing, but the horror creeps in fast. Winslow's teeth are ripped out in prison. His face is mangled in a record press. By the time he returns masked and voiceless, he's not just a phantom. He's what's left of an artist after the machine gets through with them. Each major influence sort of echoes through the characters. Like Faust, Winslow is damned for pursuing pure creation. Like the Phantom of the Opera, he haunts the stage. He's desperate for his voice to be heard. But like Dorian Gray, Swan is ageless, a predator who maintains his empire by sacrificing others. Then there's Phoenix. At first, she's Christine, the ideal muse, the dream of authenticity. But unlike Christine, she doesn't escape corruption. Swan swallows her whole. The entire second half of the movie, you see her doing blow in the back of the limo. Even Beef, Swan's handpicked replacement for Winslow, is a walking parody. He's loud, theatrical, and built for spectacle. He's an industry plant well before the term even exists. A reminder that in Swan's world, art doesn't need to be authentic, it just needs to sell. His onstage electrocution is played as slapstick horror, but the metaphor is brutal. Death by spectacle. The symbolism throughout is sharp. Winslow's mask isn't just a disguise. It's the shell of an artist stripped of everything. His distorted voice, filtered through Swan's synthesizer, shows how the industry twists art until it's no longer belonging to the creator. And Swan's eternal youth, bought through a Faustian bargain, is the most damning metaphor. An industry that feeds on artists to keep itself forever young. This isn't parody for its own sake. This is prophecy. The film exaggerates, but what it exaggerates is painfully real. The theft of Winslow's music mirrors a long history of predatory contracts. Artists from Little Richard to TLC have all lost publishing rights, watching their own songs become someone else's property. The Beatles lost ownership of their catalog in the late 60s, leaving Paul McCartney to spend decades trying to buy back his own work. Then you have Motown. Motown was built on young black artists signing contracts that paid pennies on the dime, while Berry Gordy built an empire. And by the 1970s, labels like CBS and Warner were structuring deals to ensure that they, not the creators, held the long-term value. Swan's empire feels like those record labels churning through talent, packaging, and rebranding until the art barely resembles what it once was. Winslow's disfigurement is a grotesque metaphor. It's what happens when the industry chews up its artist, leaving them unrecognizable, even to themselves. Then there's the technology aspect. Winslow's voice is destroyed and reprocessed through a machine. An almost absurd exaggeration in 1974, but prophetic now. Auto-tune, sampling, AI vocal cloning, holograms. Technology has become a way of stripping voices from their owners and recycling them endlessly. In Swan's hands, technology is less about creation than it is about control. And Beef, as campy as he is maybe the film's most modern character. He doesn't care about authenticity. He's there to perform whatever Swan tells him to. He knows he's disposable, and his fear makes him almost sympathetic. He's not a villain. He's another cog, another casualty. Because in the ecosystem of the music industry, no one is truly safe. Talent is interchangeable. Identity is disposable. The only thing that lasts is the machine itself. Swan's empire, forever young, feeding on whatever's next. What makes Phantom of the Paradise timeless is that it doesn't just parody the 1970s. It shows us a cycle that never really stopped. I mean, the examples are endless. Taylor Swift re-recording her albums after losing her masters. You can compare that to Winslow reclaiming his stolen voice by trying to get Phoenix to sing his cantata. Britney Spears under conservatorship. I mean, the industry owns the artist herself, much like Winslow and Swan's deal. Pop stars are groomed and packaged by labels before they've even released a song. And then you've got dead artists like Tupac being resurrected through posthumous albums, holograms, and even AI. It's Swan's empire in real life, an endless appetite. It feeds on the very people it's already consumed. Then there's the reception of The Phantom itself. When the film premiered, it flopped in the US, but in Winnipeg, Canada, it became a phenomenon. The movie ran for months in theaters there. Fans packed screenings, dressed as characters, and treated it like a midnight ritual. De Palma's messy rock opera had found its people, much like Rocky Horror Picture Show. That cult following kept the film alive long enough to become a genuine classic. But the irony's sharp. The movie about an artist destroyed by the machine becomes a cult favorite because of the audience. But here, the crowd wasn't cheering death, they were keeping the work alive. Compared to the end of the film, Winslow and Swan die together, Predator and creator locked in a fatal struggle, the concert descends into chaos, the machine collapses. But the crowd doesn't mourn the loss. They cheer, just as they cheered when Beef died, as they swarmed his dead body when he was pulled from the theater. That final image is what makes the movie linger, because the machine only works if the audience feeds it. And that's the sting. Swan profits from tragedy because the crowd demands it. The real villain isn't just the producer, it's us. We see it everywhere. When an artist dies, their legacies are stretched into albums and holograms. When celebrities spiral publicly, their pain becomes late-night punchlines or viral clips. When disasters strike, news outlets keep rolling long after the facts are known. Because grief itself keeps viewers hooked, even politics become spectacle. But this isn't new. The Romans filled arenas with gladiators, medieval towns gathered for public executions. The medium changes, but that dark appetite in the human spirit doesn't. And that's what De Palma nails. Swan is only half the problem. The other half is the audience, cheering destruction, feeding the cycle. That doesn't mean enjoying art is wrong. Art is meant to be shared. But when we treat tragedy as spectacle, when we demand more from the dead, or scandal from the living, we're complacent. That's why the film endures. Its camp and excess doesn't distance us. They magnify reality until we can't ignore it. The cheering crowd's not just a background in a scene, it's a mirror, it's us. So, the real question isn't whether we're witnesses or participants, it's whether we'll change what we celebrate, because the industry will always exploit. But it only thrives if we keep showing up. In the end, Phantom of the Paradise isn't just a bizarre glam rock horror satire, it almost was a prophecy. Winslow, Phoenix, Swan, they're not just characters, they're symbols of an industry that consumes talent, exploits tragedy, and sells the remains back to us. The scariest part isn't the mask, the blood, or the devil's bargain. It's the audience, us, cheering, clapping, hungry for more, even as the artists collapse. That's why the film lasts. Not because it's cold or campy, but it asks the hardest question. When the industry feasts on the dead, when do we stop feeding it? I'm Animus, and these are the stories and discussions I want to keep exploring: films, art, and the systems that shape them. So if this little discussion left you thinking, stick around, because the conversation's definitely not going to end here.